Hello, this is Smart Bastard, and the biggest changes in this devlog is a player is able to control multiple units. NPC parties now spawn in and are able to do their own movements, and I have completely rebuilt the GUI from the ground up yet again. There's a fair bit to unpack, so we'll start from the beginning, and the first thing I did since the last devlog was make the horrible mistake of showing my code to one of my best friends that's a AAA developer, which, yeah, that was a bit embarrassing. Turns out I misspelt my project file that was called Engine. That was bad. And there was quite a few other oopsies that I have since tackled. So the biggest thing I did immediately after the last devlog was essentially refactor a bunch of the code and try and separate it out in a more manageable way. It's interesting when you actually do show your code to someone else and you see it through their eyes. Even if they don't mention something, there's so many things where you're like, oh yeah, no, that should be more readable, or that's less efficient, we should do it that way instead. And there's a lot of changes under the hood, but nothing I can really show you. But after doing the refactoring, I tried to add in multiple units to the game, which was going okay, but then I ran into more UI problems again with Myra. I mean, it's better than Gion bit, but they just kept piling on. Things like I couldn't scroll in an area, which obviously is not good, because if you can't scroll a list, I mean, that's not great. You have to physically click on the scroll bar and drag it each time, and that just won't do. So yet again, I chose a new GUI package, ImGUI. ImGUI depends on how you say it. Although it's written in C++, there is actually a .NET port, which is what I need to work with Monogame, and it does work with XNA and Monogame. So this is a lot more fleshed out, and yeah, I won't bore you with the details about the whole rebuild, but there's some minor differences than before. But although it doesn't look a lot different, the amount of functionality is miles apart, and it has allowed me to actually have a scroll bar, a working scroll bar, which is nice, as well as a bajillion other things that it's done well. And yet this required even more refactoring of the GUI code. So that, yeah, this was a whole new repository, and basically starting it again and dropping in the code that hadn't changed, and yeah, so it was a whole process. Yay. As part of those GUI changes, I did actually add a few extra options to the settings, like the show hide FPS counter and pause game when tabbed out, but nothing big. The important thing is it did enable me to finish the multiple units work, and now I have a nice button where you can toggle between multiple units and which ones are going to move. And then this led really nicely to adding in NPC parties, and just adding in some code to spawn them randomly every now and again from a settlement, and to pick a random settlement to travel to. And then they use the same pathfinding code as the player to get there. This wasn't without some hiccups in its own ways, particularly that it was quite slow when I first initially added it. The solution to this was to add in island pathfinding, which basically means rather than checking for if somewhere is passable each time something wants to move, is we pre-check it when the world is being built and be like, okay, so if I was a land unit that can't walk on water or the void hexes, can I move, can I get from here to here? And essentially assign every hex on the entire world a variable, an island variable, where they either can't get there, or whether they are part of a certain island. So Island 1, Island 2, Island 3. The idea is all you need to check then is the current hex and its island number, and then the target hex and its island number, and if they are not the same, it can't get there. And this has sped up the calculation a huge amount and is much neater to use, and has also fixed that weird issue from previous devlog where there'd be a noticeable lag spike trying to work out whether you could actually get to an impossible hex, because although the hex itself was possible to travel on, if there was no path there, it would basically check the entire map to see if it could find a route. But now it's essentially instant because we've done that pre-calculation. So yeah, a lot more efficient. So yeah, I can assure you that the code is in a much better place than it was before. So I'm looking forward to next time to actually adding on some new functionality and maybe even some world building. We'll see. Although the save and load functionality hasn't been implemented yet, so there is that as well. But that's a problem for another day. So thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Bye.